today we're going to be talking about sports nutrition. So firstly, there's no such thing as sports nutrition. Okay, it just doesn't exist. Anybody who's trying to tell you that you need to change your nutrition or you need a specific nutrition for sports, rubbish. There's no such thing as sports nutrition. There's human nutrition, and there's human nutrition done with added sports into your lifestyle. There's no specific nutrition for sports. The only thing that you need to change from a regular lifestyle nutrition to do sports is the timing of your meals and the amounts generally. The correct and the right nutrition to have for your sports depends on where you are in your nutritional journey, which I'll explain as we go. But when somebody says to you, are you on the correct sports nutrition? Do you do sports nutrition? Do you need to change your nutrition for sports? There's no such thing. Sports nutrition was invented by sports companies, trying to sell you sports drinks, sports food, sports products. You will often find that athletes consume the most processed food more than anybody because they're having their gels and their chews and their bars and their protein shakes, which they think is sports nutrition, when it is not sports nutrition at all. It is just a version of processed food, a version of food-like substance that these companies are trying to sell you. In order to be really good at your sports, or you want to progress a PB, then you need the right nutrition for sure. But it's not a sports nutrition, it is just the right nutrition for you as a human. Now we know that the right nutrition for humans is the one that includes all of the nutrients and all of the vitamins and all of the minerals and every single essential thing that human beings need. Fats, proteins, and a very long list of nutrients. All of these things are found in animal produce. So if your nutrition is not high in animal produce, then you have to question whether you are on the right nutrition in the first place. Not to paper over the cracks with carbohydrates, because carbohydrates will, in the short term, give you energy. But that is in the short term. So if you're an endurance athlete, then carbohydrates are not going to be your friend. You need something that can last a long time. You need an energy source which is going to keep you going and going and going. Perfect energy source for that is fats and triglycerides. The question might be, do we need those carbohydrates for exercise then, or for sports, or for any type of intense activity? Well, the word need is a most definite no. You do not need carbohydrates for anything at all. Never mind intense exercise, certainly not to get through the day, just for nothing. You do not need to consume any extra than what your body can already produce by itself. So no, you don't need them. However, it does depend on where you are on the nutritional ladder. Because if you are at the very bottom and your nutrition consists of lots of processed foods, then switching straight away to a low carb or a no carb nutrition is not going to get you anywhere because your body relies on them so much. What you firstly have to do is you have to work your way up the ladder in your daily nutrition so that you can then adapt it to a sports nutrition. You often find that athletes want to be healthy, so they will eat a more real food nutrition. They will ditch most processed food from their daily nutrition, yet when it comes to exercise, they'll add them back in. Not only that, but they'll think that they need carbohydrates, so they'll add in more. Thus is a vicious circle, because then they add in all of the carbohydrates for their training, and then the body starts to ask for carbohydrates just during the day, and they end up being very, very reliant on carbohydrates. Therefore, thinking you need carbohydrates to be an athlete or you need carbohydrates to do exercise. No, you've just got trapped in a vicious circle. What you need to do is break out of that vicious circle, and you need to sort out your daily nutrition. You need to have a spell potentially away from exercise so that your body can make the glucose and get the glucose it needs from the fats and from the triglycerides within your own body without having to ingest any carbohydrates. Now, I also mentioned training zones. And training zones do come into how you would adapt your nutrition. So if you are training at a very low intensity, then it's so much easier to adapt your nutrition because your body is not under stress. Anytime your body is under stress, then it will not take up anything new, or it will not want to change what it already does. So the less stress you can put through your body, the easier it is to make a transition in your nutrition or even in your workout plan, whatever it may be. So by low intensity, sometimes people talk about it as zone 2. The low intensity zone 2 is very, very low. I've done some clips when I was out running to show you the difference in zone intensities. Zone 2, you should really be able to talk and you should not be out of breath. Zone 3, you're gradually up in the pace if you're running, or you're up in the intensity if you're in the gym. And you can probably still talk, but these become a little bit short sentences. When you get into zone 4 and zone 5, then those sentences then get chopped up even further with commas and full stops when you're needing to take a breath. So if you find yourself thinking you're training at low intensities and you're chopping up your sentences, by all means speak out loud. I speak out loud in the gym and I speak out loud when I'm running. People run near me, they probably think, what's he on about? But it's a good way, and probably the best way, because heart rate can be off a little bit. If you're really looking for the best way to work out how you know what intensity you're working at, then talk to yourself.
So you can tell it's nice and easy for me at the minute because I can easily talk to you. I'm talking to you like it would be as if I was just sat at my computer desk. This is just me working nice and easily in my zone 2 pace, making sure that I'm not exerting myself, I'm not doing anything I shouldn't be doing, I'm working nice and easy. And if I look at heart rate, I've got my heart rate monitor on my watch. If I look at my heart rate, it's 140, which is zone 2 pace for me if I was to work it out on a computer. But I know just by speaking to you, you can quite easily see that I can talk very well and run nice and easy as well. So you should do this. If you're just doing a nice easy run, nice easy zone 2 run, these are the paces, this is the intensity you need to be working at. Nice easy zone 2. Just keep chatting. I can chat all the way around. Just do a nice easy zone 2 run like this. Okay, I'll tune back in with you and I've upped the intensity a little bit so that you can see the difference. Right then, I've been running at this pace now, this zone 2 pace, for a good 30 minutes, 40 minutes, coming up to around about 4 miles. So I've just kept it nice and easy for the first 4 miles, and then today's run is just a bit of a recovery run. I'm just going to up the pace in the last 2 miles and go for all out speed at the end, so zone 5 at the end. But really what I want you to take away from this is how you feel when you're running, or even when you're working at a low intensity, any low intensity in the gym or anywhere. You need to make sure you keep a lid on your low intensity work. So the low intensity work's got to be like this. You've got to be really low intensity. You're going to make sure that you're in real control of what you're doing. Otherwise it's not low intensity. You're creeping up into more high intensity and you're working your body a lot harder than it needs to. Because let's face it, the first thing to give out is going to be your muscles, not your cardiovascular system. Your cardiovascular system is going to carry on way beyond your muscles. Your muscles need strengthening from the foundation. So this is why zone 2 or low intensity work is really important, because it just builds the strength in your muscles. And without strength in your muscles, you're never going to be able to do anything. You're not going to be able to run, you're not going to be able to lift weights in the gym or anything like that. So I'm slowly starting to increase my pace now, so you can hopefully begin to see the difference in what's going on with how I talk. And although I do record heart rate, it's hard to see the difference sometimes and some days. So what I'll do now is I'll increase up to a pace of zone 3 and I carry on talking, and then you'll be able to see the difference. So already I've tried to up the pace a little bit to get into that zone 3, and before long you'll be able to tell the difference in how I'm talking. You'll be able to see the difference in my faster cadence turnover, potentially be able to hear it on the microphone, but you can probably already hear that my sentences now are starting to chop up. Putting a comma in, putting a full stop in. I can still talk the sentence, but you can just put in the commas and the full stops a little bit more readily. This is a good indication that you're now working in zone 3. So I popped it up to zone 3, zone 4. You need to work these zones. There's a lot of talk about staying in zone 2 all the time, and it's great. The bulk of your workouts and the bulk of your intensity work should be low intensity. That's what's going to build your muscles. That's what's going to build your strength. But you don't need to neglect the race intensity, which is round about this 3-4 level. And as I build up through these zones today, I'm just going to turn around at the railway tracks here. So try and keep my pace up. There we are. Go around there. Okay. So now I know I've got about 1.5 miles left to home. So I'm going to try and get this intensity up in this zone, working a little bit harder than low intensity. As I say, I'm not going to go mad. I'm just going to keep out this level until the final, around about 0.5 mile, where I step it up. So you can see, even though this is a progression workout, the bulk of it has been low intensity, and this middle bit, 1.5 miles or so out of 6 miles, a little bit harder, and just up the pace that little bit just to keep my muscles honest, build a little bit more strength in them, and then the last bit, hopefully you'll see the difference. So I'll see you towards the end. Okay, so coming towards the end of this zone 3 section, and you can still hear that I'm just still doing my sentences, but having a big pause, putting the commas in, putting the full stop in. But now it's time to go zone 5. Okay, see if I can record and run at top speed. So up the pace a bit, I'll try and keep talking. But it's very difficult now to try and talk. Probably in my breathing changing around the corner. It's basically just words, 2 words at a time. This is high intensity running and high intensity work. You shouldn't be doing too much of this, but it's great to have in your workouts. You should always have a bit of high intensity in your workouts, all the way to the end. Okay, so recovered a little bit there from the high intense finish, and basically what I want to try and get across is however you're working out, low intensity is the way to go mostly. And I know a lot of people, especially in the endurance world, do like 80-20, which is great. 80% at a low intensity, that's talking. You know, you can still do that in a gym. It doesn't have to be endurance work. You can still work at low intensity in the gym, strengthen those muscles from the base. Make sure that at a foundation level your muscles are strong, then you can go for the PBs at the top. If you're always going for the PBs at the very top, then your muscles are going to give out, you're going to get injured. And that's the same when you're running, same when you're doing any endurance exercise, same when you're doing any exercise really. The fact is, if you go hard too much, your muscles are going to feel the strain and they're going to give you injuries. Now, nobody was born injury prone. Somebody who's injury prone, it means they're doing the wrong type of exercise. They're doing the wrong exercise plan for whatever they're doing in the gym or any endurance exercises. So 80-20 is great, but I like to break it down into 80, 15, 5. So you only really need that 5% being absolute maximum, top of your heart rate, like I say, the last sort of half a mile of your run or a couple of sprints, something like that in the week of your training, or just one heavy lift, 2 heavy lifts at the gym if you're working out at the gym in the week. So an 80-15 is the 15. I like to work at zone 3 and zone 4 in the middle there. People call it the grey area, but I figure you've got to work there, you've got to know how it feels. Your cardiovascular system's got to be comfortable there as well if you're planning to race there. And also you do get a bit of extra strength in the muscles as long as you've already got that foundation from your low intensity training. If you do too much zone 3, and especially too much high intensity, you'll know about it, you'll get injured all the time, your muscles will give out. If you look at the end of a lot of the races, there is about, people often keel over with muscle problems. Everybody makes it to the line, the cardiovascular system makes it to the line, it's the muscles that give out. So strengthen your muscles all over with low intensity. And I'm sure I'll touch a bit more on nutrition when I sat down at home, but I've changed nothing of my nutrition today. This run has just fit in with my day. I haven't carb loaded for it. I haven't had any extra carbs. I haven't had a drink before I come out or anything like that. I've just gone along with my usual daily nutrition, which actually today was, I had some scrambled eggs for my breakfast. Then what have I had? And then I had an electrolyte drink for my dinner, my lunchtime dinner, and an electrolyte drink, and that's it. So tonight I'll have a good meal. I think we're making burgers tonight, so that'll be good. Have a good meal tonight. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an insight into your zones. Make sure you're not training too hard too often. Train easy, race hard. Okay? See you next time.
So be mindful of that and use that as your gauge when you're trying to work out your intensities. Now, as far as nutrition goes with those intensities, as I already said, when you're working at low intensity, I always advise people who go through any of my resets or to do a reset themselves, you should only be working at a low intensity, because then you're not stressing your body out and your body's not asking you for extra nutrition or extra nutrients that it cannot get, because it's still potentially relying on getting sugar or getting carbohydrates. It's then adding far too much stress to your body, and you changing your habits just will not take. If you put too much stress in there, changing habits will not take. The only way you can change habits is if you do it under low stress. So do that. Low intensity for changing nutrition. And then when you've done that, let's say you are adapted to a better nutrition, you're on more real food, you are on a lower carbohydrate nutrition, animal-based, because basically sports nutrition is animal-based nutrition. That's what it is. Because you cannot push your PBs without correct nutrition. And correct nutrition is an animal-based, a high animal-based nutrition. So let's go back to those high intensities. And high intensities do require more chemical energy from your body to fire all the muscle fibers. So can you produce high intensity without carbohydrates? Yes, you can, because your body will be adapted enough from your animal-based nutrition to be able to do that. It may take you a few goes, and it may be worth doing in the off-season so you can get used to it before your races. But you won't need any extra nutrition, you won't need any sports nutrition to be able to do your high intensity work, because once you have your daily nutrition sorted, once you have that all nailed down and all how you want it, then you don't need anything extra to do any kind of exercise. Now, the one caveat that I will put on that is if you are at the absolute elite level, if you want the absolute 1% out of yourself, if you are doing, let's say you are running a marathon and you've never been able to get under 4 hours for a marathon, you want to be able to do this, okay? So you've refined your daily nutrition. You're now animal-based. You're getting in every single nutrient you can. Throughout the race, you are staying well hydrated with electrolytes. Okay, so that's another important factor in daily nutrition. It's not sports nutrition, it's daily nutrition. You need to ensure you're on top of electrolytes. So you're making sure that you've done all of this and you want that 1% extra. And having something like a banana or an extra boost of carbohydrates during the race is not going to hinder your progress. It may help, it may not, but it is not going to hinder it. If you feel that it helps you, then fine. During the race, if you want to help your energy systems with a little bit of carbohydrates to try and push an extra 1% out of yourself, then go for it. But do not base your whole sporting lifestyle nutrition around carbohydrates. If you want sports nutrition, you focus on your daily nutrition. Well, I mentioned a little bit about timing there, so let's talk about timing. Okay, so timing is if you know you have an event coming up or you know you have a big PB attempt or something you really want to go for, then timing is pretty crucial, especially when it comes to electrolytes. You need to ensure that your body is topped up with electrolytes. You need to ensure that you have all of the nutrients that you require in your body to do the certain effort. If you have refined your daily nutrition to a animal-based nutrition, then you are most likely at any point going to be okay with this. But if you want to make sure and really knuckle down, then you should, before an event, ensure that you have a really big meal, something like 3 or 4 steaks or 10 burger patties or something like that. Ensure you really have filled up your nutrient stores, everything you could need, all the essential fats, all the essential proteins, all the vitamins and minerals. You top them all up before you're going to do your event the day before. So then the day before becomes crucial. You make sure you get plenty of food in you, the correct food, not carbohydrates. We're not carb loading. That is, again, under the banner of sports nutrition. Carb loading just shouldn't be there. What's it for? What are you trying to load? Glycogen stores can only be so full. You can't just keep loading and keep loading and keep loading glycogen stores. You can't. They've got a ceiling. And by being on an animal-based nutrition, your body will soon get used to filling up your glycogen stores for you so you can use them throughout every day, never mind exercise. If you want to ensure, like I say, that they are totally full, then have that big meal the day before you want to do a big effort. And that's really it, sports nutrition timing. Amounts and timing. That's all you need to know. Get your daily nutrition sorted, get your timing, get your amounts. Don't do something like fasting before an event, or don't do fasting before a big effort, because fasting is a stress on the body. Fasting is going to deplete your glycogen stores. So if you deplete your glycogen stores through fasting, you're not going to have enough there for the big effort that you're going to do in your exercise. So it's all about the timing and the amount. Once you have the timing and the amount, that's it. There you are, sports nutrition for you. Sports nutrition is basically daily nutrition. Start your daily nutrition and start out your sports nutrition. Okay, stay strong, be happy, and thrive. See you next time.